when I just, I felt like, gosh, I'm 40, I think I was 43 at the time, maybe 43. I was like, I'm 43 now. If I don't start doing this stuff, I've got this art degree, I've got this experience, I can be creative. Why not just go for it and see what happens and just keep making the work? And I got a lot of encouragement from people on Instagram, a huge amount of encouragement. Those months where I was literally making a new piece every single day. Yeah, I got a lot of encouragement, and I still do. And it's just been a completely magical journey, really.
So you feel stronger now. You feel more confident. Do you feel more of a connection with your body and yourself?
Yeah, and I think that partly comes from the fact that I stopped drinking about a year ago. I feel like I'm not trying to. I feel like I deal with my feelings head on and my emotions head on. So if I'm happy because I'm really happy, and I have to deal with that happiness. And if I'm sad, we've got to deal with sadness too. And I feel like even with the odd glass of wine, it obviously alters your state slightly. It's not that I'm anti-alcohol, but when it got to the point where I would have a sip of alcohol and it would give me a pounding headache, then it was time for me to go, actually, and trust me, it was ridiculous. I did keep trying as though it was a health food that I needed to really get into my body, which is ridiculous. But I think when you've got so many ways of coping with when you've got a particular way of coping with everyday life and you've always done that, it's very difficult to then go, actually, wow, I'm going to have to cut up some paper and glue it back together and and just deal with my emotions. But I think it's definitely had an impact with how I view my body and how I see myself. And it's also improved my mental health hugely, because creating the collages gives me that, and I'm inhaling at the moment, but it gives me that time to really breathe. When you can sit for up to 6 hours and just cut, and you can be in a room with, I sit next to my husband a lot of the time to create the work, on the sofa watching TV, and he'll be watching, I'll be cutting, and we'll be talking, and I'll be listening to. And when you give yourself time to just do something that's very selfish, very about you and no one else. And people ask me, do the kids get involved in your collages, and do they help you make? They have a couple of times, but this is really my space. If they want to make a collage, they're more than welcome to make something next to me, or make their own pieces, and I do encourage that. But I don't think everything needs to be connected to someone else. It's okay to be selfish, and I think that's not necessarily a narrative that is encouraged, especially when you're a mother. You're quite often encouraged to be giving, and, giving everything to your kids. And that's great if that's what you want to do. But equally, if you don't want to do that, then you should be allowed to do some craft or take time for yourself. And for me, it only makes me a better mother. I'm not saying I'm perfect, definitely not perfect. But what is perfect? But it definitely makes me better than I would be without creativity.
So this collage series has been a real jumping off point for you in so many different ways. To improve your confidence, it's giving you space for yourself. It's made you stronger. And actually the whole mental health angle is really fascinating as well. You said you know what your emotions are, and you're not hiding them with alcohol anymore. If you feel something, then that's what you feel. And I think it's really important. And so many people I speak to do use things to hide their emotions, and I think that's part of being human. But it's really fascinating that you've been able to identify that and use that as a source of, being a bit more clear-eyed about yourself.
Yeah, I think it's just brought a certain level of clarity and acceptance for myself and love for myself, really. I just feel I feel like my life is a lot fuller. And it's, and I still have moments of, I've got too much to do and how am I going to manage it? And that is completely normal. But obviously when you're in it, it doesn't feel normal. But you're like, but I feel so much better just with making and with sharing what I'm doing with other people, and showing people that there are other ways to relax, and how in just I want to explain the state really that I get into when I create the collages. So it goes from, what am I going to make, and I don't think about what the piece will look like. I start with a portrait and I start cutting, and I just cut away the pieces that instinctively feel right and to remove. Look at light and shade, and I might remove the light sections of someone's face, or the light in the clothing, or a background, and I keep cutting away. And then it begins to flow, and that feeling of flow is so beautiful. It's really difficult to explain. I recently did a workshop with Mandy and Kate from Love Sober podcast, and they talked about flow in the introduction, and so many people in the workshop said that they entered that state and they hadn't collaged before. So it felt really special that all of these women had entered that state through me doing the workshop. That felt super special. I was like, felt like the biggest gift you could give someone. And people just got into it. And that feeling of, outside things don't matter, and you might be talking to someone, but you're entering something completely different, where something else takes over and you're just in it. And it's and that's why collaging for me is so addictive because it allows me to not just relax and create something, and people might like it, or I can create a bespoke piece for someone and they'll go, I love that. That's a great feeling too, but the process is so beautiful and so healing. And it doesn't matter what's been going on that day. I could have the most hideous day, but if I just give myself that time to create something at the end of it, it all goes away. It all goes away.
You've really gone on a journey from this 11-year-old girl who wasn't sure what was happening to her to this 43-year-old woman.
44, but it's okay. It's only a year.
A 44-year-old woman who has, greater confidence, feeling strong, who has a better sense of herself. And I think that's really fascinating. And if any listener is connecting with what you're saying, what's the one thing you would want them to take away from this podcast?
That it doesn't matter what's gone before, but just start with today. Just start with today and think a lot about what you want to achieve, who you want to be, what you want your legacy to be. And I think in working with the museum that I work with, I look at community engagement, and my work is about encouraging people who are not the typical museum audience to take up space in that museum. So underrepresented groups. So the work I do really ties in with my collage series because it's about me taking up space. But I really want people to think about so it's made me think about legacy a lot, really, in working at the museum. And it's made me think about what my legacy would be. And I really want people to think about what their legacy would be. It doesn't need to be huge. You don't need to, it doesn't have to be huge, but just something that means something to you, something that you'd be proud of. What do you want your story to be? And it doesn't matter how old you are. I think I never, ever expected to be doing what I'm doing now. I always hoped I would, but I just got to a point, especially after having my son, that I just thought, I couldn't even imagine leaving the house without him or having, but like real time on my own. And the same with my daughter. I just thought, I want to achieve those things that I thought I was going to achieve. So I just think start with today and just make things happen and really believe you can do it. That's the most important thing, is to believe in yourself.
Thank you so much, Sharon. You've said so many wise words, and there's a lot for listeners to take away and unpack. Where can listeners find out more about you?
Okay, so you can find out more about me via my Instagram account, so London_artist1. But you can also find out about me through my website, which is londonartist1.com. And I have some things coming up. So I have some workshops. I have a workshop in January, another one in February. I'm part of an exhibition at the Mall Galleries in December for Art for Youth. And any money raised will go towards a youth arts charity. So, young people are very close to my heart because I do youth engagement as well at the museum I work at. But yeah, so find out more about me via my website and my Instagram account.
And we'll put all the links in the show notes. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for allowing me to think about my period and my story in a completely different way. Lots for me to think about as well. Thank you, Lenice.
Thank you. Thank you to today's guest and to you for taking the time out of your day to listen to Period Story. Music is Modern Jazz Samba by Kevin MacLeod. You can find show notes and links to things mentioned on this episode on www.periodstorypod.com. If you love this episode, then it would mean so much if you could head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, or leave a review. Thank you, and see you next week.